Hello, people of the internet, and welcome back to Rashman Productions. This is Comic Week with God Spectre himself, where I talk about everything comics, everything movies, and everything superheroes. So, the point of this discussion is to kind of lay out why I personally believe that DC comics are better than Marvel comics. So, the DC comics that I own are these two. You can see here Superman Unchained and Justice League Last Ride. Both of these stories are from the new 52 universe. And the Marvel comics that I own are Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe. Again, now on the contrary of the topic of the video, I personally like these two comics more than these two comics, but that's not the basis of the discussion. We are overall discussing and generally discussing why I prefer DC Comics over Marvel Comics and what me as a kind of a consumer or as a an audience, why do I as an audience prefer DC Comics more than Marvel Comics. So I'll just jump right in it, but before that, my posters are out on printmyposter.in, so go check it out. You can buy them. These are some cool designs, so go check it out. Link is also in the description. So yeah, let's continue with the topic of discussion, and that is, why do I personally prefer DC Comics over Marvel Comics? Because one thing is simple: DC Comics fleshes out the world so easily and so flavorfully, or like so meticulously, that it's almost as if an epic written, a great grand adventure that has mythology, that has these things that affect it, these greater things of greater values among gods, stuff like that. And that is what kind of gets me interested in DC Comics. Now we'll dive into it more, but let me tell you like what basic differences are between DC and Marvel Comics as a reader, as a comic book reader, as a story reader, as a audience. What I see the difference in both of these comics. Now I have read over 1,000 comics. Like literally, when I started reading comics, the first comic which I read was Infinity War, like the original Infinity War, which was like in like the 90s 80s, I don't know. It was like an old comic, it had old kind of art on it, and that was the first comic that I actually read. So my introduction to comics was with Marvel, but as I kind of went on to discover more and more comics, I personally inclined towards DC more. So the basic differentiation that I have looked, or that I have came across in regards with Marvel and DC, in particularly the medium of comics, is that DC comics are more colorful in stories, whereas Marvel comics are more colorful in variations of a singular character, if you know what I mean. So in DC Comics, there will be a Batman, and that Batman will be a main character for a very long time, and that Batman character will differ so much throughout the entire multiverse that the Batman of the main universe, or the universe that you are currently reading on, will stand out as the Batman, and the variants, or like the alternate Earth parts, will stand alone as their own character. Whereas with Marvel, the variants in Marvel comics, like the character variants, many of them are not outright as much different. Sure, they're different in their own unique sense. I mean, of course, it's the multiverse, things are different, there are many different things out there too, but majority of the times, they're kind of, let's say, canon events are very similar, yet things are different there, no doubt. In fact, the new Ultimate Universe is very interesting, where things are so much changed, and I love that. However, again, with that, it's just proving my point that even though it is a different universe, Peter Parker is still, let's say, the Spider-Man. And sure, it may vary from universe to universe, but it's like characters fit a very said and set character profile in Marvel comics, especially in the multiverse of Marvel. And that is what I'm kind of bummed with. Whereas in the Venomverse comics, it is again a very nice thing and brilliant thing that these characters, or like these, let's say, Venom as a symbiote or as a character on itself, are attached with different characters, and that gives them a sort of a different personality, if so to speak. But still, with Marvel, it feels pretty different. Like, even it doesn't matter if it's a different Spider-Man, if it's a Spider-Man of different ethnicity, or if it's a Spider-Man of different origin too, but still their stories set out very similar. Whereas with DC, with DC's multiverse, it is kind of very unique in its very own way. So let's say a Batman of Earth 1 will have such a different story from Batman of Earth 2, or his counterpart from Earth 2, and that is what kind of gets me very interested in it. And so yes, even though they are Batman, their stories are very different, their motivations are very different. Sure, they are called Batman, but the thing that defines them as Batman is very different, and that is what I personally lean towards more. And regarding, and let's say continuing that, the stories in the DC comics are more mythological, at least to me. Like, the stories in the DC comics feel more elaborate, more grand. With Marvel, they feel fantastical stories, they feel out of the world stories, they feel magical stories, which are good. I enjoy them too. I enjoy those stories as well. But to me, mythology feels more grounded, even with its supernatural elements, with its things, and with its kind of these magical things that are happening in those mythological stories. It still feels grounded, it still feels real. But with Marvel, it feels that even though it is happening very real, it is still very fantastical. It's like, oh, it's in a faraway world, it's happening somewhere. But with DC, even those faraway worlds, even those worlds of absolute nothingness, even those worlds where everything is lava, everything is like literally gone, dusted, it's like three nukes fell on that world, and still a demon, or like a still a, you know, an insect or something living on that planet still feels very real and grounded in its own sense. And it brings this kind of heftiness, and it brings kind of real stakes to any stories. Even let's say something dealing with the Speed Force, which is like an entirely fictional thing, it still feels grounded than Marvel's, let's say, everyday universe. Because it's like you go out to the city, and in the city you have the Hulk, you have Spider-Man, you have, you know, Punisher, you have Doctor Strange, you have Iron Man, you have all these characters, but their interaction feels more magical. It feels like, you know, just in a faraway land, they're having their fun, even though it is based in the places of the real world. And that is what kind of is a thing that I do not prefer much. Like, even though the places in DC are not real, or like, yes, sure, they're based off sometimes real places, but those still feel very grounded and very real, in even though they are not real and not based off real things at times. So that is a thing, or a reason why I prefer DC more. Then currently with movies, the Marvel movies feel more grounded, and the DC movies do not feel grounded. And that is why I kind of love DC movies. I know you'll be like, why is he like changing? Like, I'm literally just leaning towards DC. But don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean I hate Marvel. I literally love Marvel movies. I love watching Marvel movies. I love reading Marvel comics. So the point is that it depends on the media in what we are consuming. Let's say with movies, the reason I kind of prefer now the DC movies more and the DC content more, especially with James Gunn's new DCU, is because it feels comical. It is supposed to feel comical. It isn't supposed to feel or like look something that is just happening in everyday world. Whereas with Marvel, it feels more realistic. It feels more grounded in the real world, and that is what I kind of do not like with the movies. I know it is very crisscrossing and unmatching thing that I'm saying, but it depends on the medium. Like, I'm not saying that every DC movie should be like that and every Marvel movie should be like that. In fact, recent Marvel movies proved that they can be comical with Fantastic Four. They can have different tones like the Thunderbolts, and that is why I liked those movies as well. But I'm talking about the overall kind of structure and tone of the universes. Even in the comics, that doesn't mean that I do not like the Marvel comics at all. Like, I absolutely love the new Ultimate Universe, whatever they're doing, love it. I'm still to catch up on One World Under Doom, but I'm still reading that. The recent Marvel comics have felt more gravitating to me in instead of the DC comics, but I'm still interested in DC comics. But The new kind of Moon Knight that came out in 2024, that was amazing. The Wolverine comic series that came out last year, that was amazing. In fact, 2024, personally, I would say it was majority of Marvel things that I had in my top comic list for 2024 than DC. Sure, DC had some good stuff and is releasing good stuff still, but I still have to catch up onto it. I still have to get into it more. Yet I'm preferring DC more because the thing is, whatever I have read till now, I have preferred that kind of storytelling more, that kind of cinematics more, in that kind of tone, in that kind of color, in that kind of mythology, in that kind of way of storytelling. And that is why I personally prefer DC Comics over Marvel Comics. Now I get it, some of it might be confusing, but I hope I have made myself clear. And yeah, so that was it. If you liked the video, of course, and comment if you want to kind of showcase or highlight any more differences that you personally feel that are in Marvel and DC comics, and which one you prefer most. So of course, let me know that in the comment section, and of course up to the channel. That's it. I'll see you in the next with Peacemaker season 2 episode 2 review later this day. So yeah, check that out.